Hey guys and gals, welcome to the YouTube channel. I'm Chris Kiefer, and this is the 2025 comparison today. So again, going off of your emails and what you guys are asking me, what you may want to buy for 2025, we brought out the 2025 CRF450R and the YZ450F. I feel like these are the most two popular bikes that at least I've been asked about so far this year. So I brought them out to Glen Helen Raceway today. So if you guys are sick of my opinion, which I totally understand, I don't blame you, I brought a few other gentlemen out here to ride this bike. We ran a little questionnaire on my social media about, hey, who wants to buy a new Honda or a Yamaha? Are you confused? You don't know which one to buy? I get a lot of those questions as well. So we brought a few of those guys that are on the fence about what bike to purchase. They're going to try to make their decision today. We're going to talk to those guys and give you some insight. To me, looking for an opinion, it's hard to find, and you only can get the proper opinion if you can relate to the person. So hopefully within this video you can relate to some of the people that are in this and use that for your purchasing knowledge, and hopefully you get something out of this. As always, if you have any questions about any of these bikes, chris@kieferinctesting.com is the email that is open for you guys to ask away if we don't answer them here in this video. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. We're going to get some action shots. We're going to have the guys spin some laps. Just to break the guys down, we have a couple gentlemen that are just weekend warriors that like to have fun, interested in buying some 450s. And then you have a couple guys like me and another gentleman that care about going fast a little bit more, want to go racing a little bit more, care about lap times. So we're going to get some lap times on me and another guy. And the other two gentlemen are just here for a simple opinion because I'm here for a good time and I just want to ride. So we'll get those guys. No clock is on them because they don't care about the clock. They're soul riders. So a little mix of guys here today. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll be right back. All right, we got our guy Jake here, so we're gonna do lap times on the Yamaha and the Honda. I'm gonna do 2 laps on the Yami, 2 laps on the Honda. Same thing for Jake. And we'll see how it goes. I feel okay on that bike. Obviously I'm familiar with the bike a lot, so today's a really dry and edgy day at Glen Helen. So again, not a lot of ruts. It's only part 1. We're going to do this again on a softer, more East Coast style track, but yeah, it's tough to ride, so it's going to be interesting to hop on the Honda and see what it does. But I think some of these lap times are good just to see what the bike's like when you're under race simulation in your head. And yeah, I'm looking forward to riding the Honda to see what it does.
Those lap times are almost identical. 2:18, 2:18.
There you go.
What'd you think?
It's getting rougher for sure, for sure. And then they started watering in certain spots, so I'm like, getting crazy, but it's good.
It watered a little bit on the track, so there's some variance, but it didn't matter. I felt a little bit more planted on the Honda, even though the Yamaha has more engine going up the hills. I feel like that the Honda just, I can get in and out of these blown out corners a little bit better on the Honda. So I don't know what the lap times are yet. We're gonna reveal that here in a minute, but I felt like I was a little bit better on the Honda.
He actually recovered that lap, dude, 217, and he almost died.
Dude, that was if Burkeen was here, he would have had some nice choice words for that one. That was a good one, but that was a little bit sketchy. Getting tired, I think.
You just bought him out?
Yeah, well, I got, like, before it, I just got a little loose before it, and then I looked at the line, and it had a rock in it. I was like, I'm not jumping it, and then right when I hit it, it was all gunk. Like,
we saw the head knob.
dude, the last thing I wanted to do was endo this bike. I'm like, oh my god.
Dude, you have the metal, like the heavy metal.
Oh yeah.
All right, wrapped it up here. Honda versus Yamaha at Glen Helen Raceway. I didn't start with the video saying this is part one. Look it, I'm not an idiot. I know we can't do a shootout in one day. It's one track. Obviously the track's baked, hard pack, but it gives us an idea of the character of each motorcycle, so it's nice to have different opinions, different riders versus just me telling you guys what I feel. I'll still do that in this video, but I'll have 3 extra guys. Eddie Laret right here, 230 pounds, senior B, mammoth, fun and fitness, recently retired from racing. Now we're just doing it for the looks, for the bling, and what feels comfortable on the track. That's Eddie. So if you're that guy, listen to what he has to say, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of it. So if you have about extra 10 to 15 minutes, it's probably what it's going to take to get him all this stuff out for you guys right here. Correct?
No.
No, we're doing quick.
So it's actually pretty simple.
Cliff notes.
Yeah.
Okay. Eddie.
Yeah.
You had the Yamaha last year or
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
For Mammoth. You raced it.
Yep.
You said it was a lot of bike for you at times. Fun bike to ride, but
Yep.
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have the new Honda. Honda updated their frame. Not a lot of changes within the engine. But there is quite a bit of change within the bike itself. For me, much better direction for the guys over at Honda, but now we have both bikes back to back in 2025. Yamaha updated their linkage, did a front engine mount change. Not a lot on paper, but it could work on the track.
Yeah.
Where are you at?
Yeah, so before we get started, we were asked to pick a couple negatives and a couple positives on both bikes. And I'm gonna tell you guys, like, that is so hard to do with these motorcycles nowadays. They're so close. I think it really boils down to rider preference, size, and track conditions you ride in.
That's why we brought you.
To pick a bike that, you know, that you would want to ride on a day-to-day basis. So, yeah, new Honda. Obviously a way better Honda than we've had in the past.
So let's stop there. You would pick this Honda over last year's Honda because you rode it.
Yep, yeah, I rode our WE last year, and I would want to ride this Honda 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, way better than what we've had in the past. Is it a bike that I would pick to win the shootout of all the brands? No, we're not there yet.
Okay.
But it's definitely a better Honda. Some of the negatives I have with the Honda is I mean, obviously I don't knock suspension very often because I'm a bigger guy, right? I have to have it done. But most of these bikes out of the box, when they're fresh and everything's tight, I can ride the suspension. It's somewhat manageable, right? The Honda was not today. I think the Honda actually leans a little more towards like the Cowie, where it's extremely soft. You know, I had a couple sketchy moments on it where I'm like, man, if this thing just had a little more hold up, it wasn't deep in the stroke, it would probably give me a different feeling on the motorcycle. So that's my biggest knock on Honda is it's not, the suspension's pretty far off. You know, I would imagine even for the 170, 180 pound guys, it's pretty soft. My next two things are kind of petty.
Okay.
American Honda, please change your grips.
Okay.
These big fat grips don't do any justice for what's out in the market today. So
But that stuff's easy. You change that stuff.
yeah, but that's what I said at the beginning of the video. I mean, we're down to knock these current motorcycles.
Right.
We're down to petty stuff. Another thing that I kind of remembered being a little better was the power on the Honda. Okay. I felt like today I couldn't really use the second gear. The track, you'll see in the videos, the track was not very good today. So kind of hard to keep a lot of momentum in the corner. So I had to use, I actually went to map 2 and I felt a little bit better being able to use. Which is actually a smoother map, but for some reason I felt like I was able to not have to get on the clutch so much to carry third through some of the corners, but it's not a manageable, it's not manageable on the Honda.
Okay.
You know, I think you lose, if I was to go on the clock, I think I would lose quite a bit of time. My positives on the Honda, obviously, I mean, way better frame, you know, way more chassis compliant, chassis way better, good lean angle. I did feel a little twitchy at some points on it, but that was 100% suspension related, being so soft down in the stroke. So that's, I don't really want to say that. I think the chassis is way better. I think they've done a phenomenal job with it. They've definitely gone in the right direction with this chassis. My other good thing on the Honda is obviously its ergonomics, right? So I think it's class leading. I don't think there's any bikes out there that you just sit on that just feel comfortable from top to bottom all around. I think it leads everything in that department. So Honda is definitely good there. And that's really it on the Honda. You know, I think it's a way better Honda.
All right, so the Yamaha, like I talked about earlier in the show, like it's nice to have these back-to-back. You can ride them. These guys watching this video, they can't do that. Can you tell the difference really quick when you hop on the Yamaha between the two? Yeah,
Yamaha has a lot more power, a lot more playful power. You know, you don't have to necessarily be so focused on how you ride it. I mean, there's more power and you know what to do with. The Yamaha has a more aggressive chassis.
Aggressive as in?
Like stiff. Okay. This bike, like when I jumped on this bike.
It's crazy to say like the Yamaha is stiffer feeling than the Honda.
When I jumped on this bike, if you didn't tell me, I would have thought it was a brand new motorcycle. Like that's how it felt. The suspension is a lot stiffer, which like I said, when these bikes are new, us 230 pound, 235 pound guys, we can ride them with this suspension. So the Yamaha, like if you would have put me on the watch, I could have rode the Yamaha at my race pace, where the Honda would have been pretty sketchy for me with the suspension being really soft.
But now we're fun and fitness.
Yeah, so if you're asking me to go buy a bike today, like, hey man, you have to go pick a motorcycle today, it's between these two.
And you're gonna have to enjoy your weekends on this bike for a whole year.
Yep, I am going to have to pick a Yamaha for right now, just because I can ride it with stock suspension. The power is going to always be there, so you're not trying to come into these corners so fast, like you literally could just roll in them and squirt out of them.
Yep.
So if I had to pick, if you said, hey Eddie, you need to go buy a bike right now, leave here, go to Shat Moto or Power Motorsports, whatever, and buy a bike today, I would buy the Yamaha, just because I feel like in a stock trim, it's okay. Like I can ride it, it's got the power, the chassis has enough, like the suspension's stiff enough for me. KYB suspension's a little easier to dial in than the Showa stuff, right. So which we've talked about before. So I think if you're saying, hey, today pick a bike, I'm gonna have to pick the Yamaha.
Okay.
But I'm not Yamaha or the Honda.
You're not gonna call me later after this video and go, dude, I really didn't like the Honda. I just didn't want to say it in the video.
Yeah, no, and it's not like these bikes are not like that, man. They're so close that it's just we're picking down to grips and seat cover material and stuff like that.
You guys watching this video, this is the kind of stuff that can happen. Like your buddies text you after, okay, Kiefer, tell me the real story, dude. Tell me the real story. Like, this is the real story. Like, I'm not getting a text later. This is all here. This is, So, okay, you're Team Yamaha.
Yep.
So that's one for Yamaha. We're going to grab the other guys, see what they have to think. All right. I brought Jake here, Jake Himmel. He's a vet B rider, 35 years old. He is a Kawasaki guy. Previously on a Husqvarna FC350, purchased the KX450. I've known him as a Kawasaki guy, just being here in Southern California and watching him ride. I've seen him more on the Kawasaki brand. So I brought him out to be a total newbie to these two bikes. So Yamaha and Honda, you haven't ridden those bikes in quite a long time. So I guess break down for the people that are maybe on another color what the advantages are between the two and the disadvantages. So we told Eddie 2 points, negatives, positives.
Yep.
Let's start with the Yamaha this time.
So the Yamaha, I'd say coming off my bike, I had a 2020, and then in between I had a Husky 350, and then got this newer one. So for me, power-wise, initially, hopping on the Yamaha, by lap 1, it was like I wanted to push and
It invited
use
you
the
to do it.
bike. Yeah, it was like, all right, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
Like I really wanted to get going quick. So by the second lap, I was like, all right, let's go. Let's start charging in the turns and stuff. And then where I felt uncomfortable was if I slowed down too much.
Okay.
Like this bike, I feel like for people who are gonna get on it, like they're gonna say it's stiff, and like riding through the pitch, you're like, oh, okay, it's pretty rigid. And
Yeah.
then first couple laps just rolling around, slow in the turns, you're gonna feel, what I felt was that it's pretty stiff, but when you get into it and you get comfortable, I feel like the bike works the faster you go. It's one of those bikes
So the
that's
more,
like,
it's built for performance base. Like,
exactly. Like I think they went more racy with this one.
Yeah.
Like my last Yamaha was a 2016, and it felt, I mean, it was a used one when I got it. It was a lot more plush and just used in a way. Like it just felt like everything flexed. This thing, it just feels solid.
Okay.
But I feel like I can do whatever I want on it. Like I was telling you before, it doesn't bog, and its bog has power.
Yeah.
Like it's not.
So what
it's not
Jake's
a
referring to
boost,
when he's talking about bogging is like the ability to lug your motorcycle in third gear. I always talk about third gear being that magic gear. We get to be lazy. We're vet guys. Can the motorcycle pull you around the track without stalling or just being really low in the RPMs in third gear? And that's what the
Right.
Yamaha does.
Like especially at the bottom of the hill, well, before the uphill,
Yeah.
where that inside turn a lot of the times isn't the same when you come around. So one of the times it was super blown out, and I tried turning in third, which on my Cowie would never happen. You'd end up having to click second,
Yeah.
keep going. Dude, the Yamaha, like not even a clutch, and I kind of bobbled, went over a little bit, and just brrr, all the way
Pulls
up the
it
hill.
right up.
And that is something specifically that I wish the Cowie had.
Yeah.
Because all the time I'm going from third to second. I want to be in third, but I'm in second. The Yamaha, I didn't even have to shift. Like it just felt comfortable. The power is perfect. Like right when I got off of it, I said, I love third gear. Like third gear is,
Did you mess with any maps?
I switched one map in between riding the first and second time.
Yep.
In the second map, I felt like a gradual difference, but not much. And then they had just watered, so I didn't get like a good feel. I felt like it was pretty slippery, but
So there's an optional map that we tried that'll be up on my website. You can go to keyframetesting.com. Travis and the guys gave us an optional map to kind of smooth that low end out, but keep that mid climb. And that's what we had today to try.
I didn't feel like it was too raunchy. Like I definitely felt like you can stab it in second and you're not gonna loop out or nothing. Felt good.
And so chassis stiffness is a little bit stiff for you. Suspension action's okay?
Yeah, I felt, so what I had told Travis was that the shock feels perfect. I wouldn't touch the shock at all. The fork I feel like maybe was a tad too stiff. Like I just did the suspension on my bike, so it's a little softer than these two. But I felt like the fork, maybe if I even did 2 to 3 clicks, it'd probably be money.
Yeah.
A lot of reaction though, I guess when we get into the Honda, but
Yeah, you can step into
a
that.
lot
that's
of lot of differences that if on suspension with the Honda. Night and day, first lap from the Honda to the Yamaha.
It's a big difference, right?
Yeah, like it took me a few laps for sure to be like, okay, this is what the bike's gonna do type of thing. First lap down the hill, getting into the bumps, I definitely got that
On the
kinda,
Honda.
I call it the click clacks because
Yeah.
you click clack back and forth
Yeah.
when you get into those bumps. Like the Cowie is pretty popular doing that. The Honda though, it feels like I would crank on that steering stem, I think.
So for me, if you guys are watching this, when you hop on the Yamaha and the Honda back to back, and maybe you can relate to this, when I get back on the Honda from the Yamaha, I feel like my front wheel is really close to me, tucked in. And then you get on the Yamaha and it feels out a little bit.
Yeah,
And
it raked out.
that's the feel of the Honda. You feel the wheels very close to you and the steering's really quick, which is good in a lot of areas here, which we'll talk about, but like coming down the hill when you're loading, soft suspension for me,
Right.
I'm sure the same for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like towards the bottom, yeah, you don't really feel it until you get to the very bottom where you really compress, but yeah, you get those, sometimes that kick into the corner where you don't want to charge down the hill anymore.
Yeah.
But on the Yamaha, it was like, dude, I can come in second, third, or even fourth gear. One of the times I clicked into fourth, and it's money. Like you just charge, you have traction. I don't feel any sort of skip or nothing, and I can stand and lean into the next turn with that like inertia coming into that bump, and I don't feel like on the Honda when I came down, it felt like, okay, I got to kind of settle before I can start to turn. On the Yamaha, it was just kind of a gradual.
You didn't have to think
like,
about it so much.
Exactly, like I didn't think about shifting or nothing, and same thing with the Honda in third gear, like it didn't want to pull as much. Kind of wants that clutch feeling, kind of like the Cowie, but
so not as good at recovery.
Exactly, like if you mess up the turn a little bit and you're in third gear, you're probably gonna have to shift down to get that good
What
power out
about
of the
like
turn.
positives from the Honda? What did you like?
Positive from the Honda, sitting on the bike, looking down, I feel like if I didn't ride the Yamaha and I just sat on both bikes, I would tell you that I'm gonna like the Honda more.
Okay.
So I
ergonomically,
feel,
it just feels
ergonomically, like your little, like your rider triangle, like you talk about all the time, like where your bars sit, where the levers are, how they feel, all that, like simple stuff, but it feels super comfortable. And then you sit on the Yamaha, it has a different feel than a lot of bikes now with how the seat is and where the bike is. I feel like the bars are forward, but the wheel is closer, or I mean farther away. Like I feel like I'm far, but once you start riding, I don't feel that anymore.
Okay.
So like when I sit on the bike, I feel like I'm out here, but when I'm riding, it completely went away. So like my mind was kind of set on saying that,
Right.
but then as soon as I took off, I was like, oh, okay, never mind. I don't feel far away anymore.
Got it.
Like,
Any other points? So suspension for you, soft on the Honda.
yeah, a little soft.
So what we talk about, and I'll talk about what I feel, but for me, just the quality of damping on the Honda, I feel like it needs more meat. It needs more hold up. Like in-stroke is kind of empty. It feels soft. It moves a lot. On light bump, when you're accelerating out of a corner or drifting around, I feel like the suspension is quite good because it soaks up all that small stuff.
Yeah.
But anytime I have to load it on a high-speed chassis load, it's very, very soft for me. And I would, you're 175 pounds.
Yeah.
You think it should hold up a little bit more, but I think that's some of the drawbacks from this Honda. I don't think it's the chassis. I just think we need a little bit more meat on the suspension.
I think when you get into that spot though, where you're talking about, where you're kind of in like in the meat of it, it works really good. Like if you can make it to where you're planted in the
loading.
Exactly. Like if you can load it and kind of keep it loaded and load it, and then unload, it would be perfect. But yeah, you do get that first kick. If you don't stay in it, then yeah, it wants to kind of springboard you back out.
Would you like more engine from the Honda?
Yeah, I think so. I think just a more rideable engine, like second and third, I think could be a little more gradual. Like I think it could pull a little longer, maybe. I mean, you could do sprockets, see if that helps. But I do feel like just from third gear, from Honda to Yamaha, night and day. Like Yamaha's got that third gear figured out.
And there is maps, like you have map 1, map 2, map 3 on the Honda. 3 is aggressive, but for me, it gives you more snap, but it shortens the top end pull. And 2 is a gradual, more like torquey feel. And then map 1 is the one I like in general. It just has a blend of both. So I stay on map 1, but I agree. It doesn't have enough torque feel in third gear. We can change gearing, but again, we're just riding these things stock. I like the manageable power because I can actually ride it. But again, when you're looking to get up hills and from point A to point B in a quick matter, that Yamaha is so apparent. You get on, you're like, oh man, it really gets up there really quick.
I think too, especially since this track, like when you get to the bottom of those hills and you get out into that fluff, you really question what gear you're in because you're spinning, and then when you catch the traction going uphill, that's when you really need to be in that third gear spot. But I mean, a couple of times I came around the turn purposely in a higher gear just to see how it reacted, and dude, it just felt like the sand wasn't there, and I just carried traction and just melted up the hill. And yeah, the Yamaha for sure.
So Jake and I race, we try to race quite a bit here in Southern California. So we did lap times for him and I, and he doesn't know what he got. So on the Yamaha, he was a 218 and change, and on the Honda, he was 217. So he's actually faster on the Honda, which is crazy because I would assume you're going to pick a Yamaha just from what it sounds.
Yes. I will say the 2 laps that I did on the Yamaha, I did mess up a little bit. I had a couple spots where I think for sure I would have been faster. I think for sure, because the last lap on the Honda, I was going a little faster, but I was not as comfortable.
And he wasn't quite in control. I'm sure we'll have that. We could have some commentary about that.
Oh man, that
but
last one.
It was a little sketchy. It looked like he was listening to some good heavy metal because his head was just bobbing like this. So he slapped down a couple of times pretty good. But nonetheless,
that was a good one.
The lap times show that you're faster on a Honda.
Yeah.
But comfort-wise, if you're going to go buy a bike right now, you're leaning towards a blue bike.
Exactly. So, but like Eddie said, like it's so hard to say, because then it sounds like, oh, I didn't like the Honda.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah, and I think we know that it's not
right,
like that, right?
I mean, they're so good. Like, I'm sure guys, if they've tried their buddy's bikes or whatever it is, and then they hop back on theirs, they're like, oh, I kind of like my buddy's bike better. But like riding the Yamaha, I rode the Yamaha first, so I hopped off it. I'm like, damn, should I have bought a Yamaha? Like, do I not like my Cowie now or whatever? But in between riding, I hop back on it real quick. I'm like, nah, dude, I like this thing. It's good. So it's hard to ride these new bikes and not immediately say, oh, this one's just better. It's newer. It's got to be better.
There's nothing that just black and white.
No.
It depends on the area of track.
Exactly, too. So like I ride, like me, I think I'm a lot better at shorter style, ruddier tracks. Like Glen Helen, when you're on the gas fast, down the hills fast. Like Paris and State Fair were probably like my best tracks. Well, when we had State Fair. But more ruddy, tighter sections, shift more. I feel like I'm better at that. I would like to try them at different tracks, like you said, but for something like this that everyone rides at and everyone has the same kind of opinion, like you could love or hate Glen Helen, but it's good to try new bikes at because I think you get a good round feeling on each
Glen Helen
bike.
is good for chassis feel, you know, suspension feel, and there's some good engine portions of the track and it's just a good first impression for all these guys to hop on it and try the bike. So again, this isn't like, hey, this is the best bike for everywhere. This is just the first time we're doing this to put them head to head, see what it's like. I'm gonna go to some softer conditions because I've learned that this year, going back east more, the bike changes. I didn't quite like the Yamaha as much when I went to stickier, ruddier tracks. I like it a lot more here. It's way more apparent that I like the Yamaha more here at times just because of how open the tracks are. Yeah. So all right, 2 for the Yamaha. Jake, no, one more question before we leave here. Would you sell your green bike for a Yamaha?
Well, with how much I owe on the green bike, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. But
if we were free and clear, and let's say
you
had no motorcycle and you had the money, you're waiting, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go buy one. Now that you've ridden it, where are you at?
If I had the same amenities, because you know my dad rides Cowie.
Yes. So his dad is Jeff Matiasevich, everybody.
So
in case you didn't know that.
He's got some pull still, so as far as getting like OEM parts and stuff, brakes, chain sliders, clutches, stuff like that, that's kept me on a Cowie just simply because I don't make a lot of money and this stuff's expensive. So it is nice to have that to fall back on, which a lot of guys don't. I appreciate it a lot when he comes through.
Yeah.
When he comes through, I buy a lot of the stuff myself. But if I didn't have any of that and it was my choice and I wasn't at zero with my bike, I think I would get a Yamaha.
All right,
I think based off of comfortability, like the first lap, halfway through the track, I said, all right, let's go. And it took me multiple laps on the Honda, it took me multiple laps on my Cowie. It's there, the comfortability is there.
2 for the Yamaha. All right, so on social media, you know, I reached out there and said, hey, I just want an average guy who's getting ready maybe to buy a bike in 2025. So this is my guy right here, Jesse Heninger, 40C rider, 175 pounds. In the summertime, he's on the boat more than the dirt bike. From what I've gathered, look, he's smiling, so that's what it is. I try to mix it up. So in the winter, he does ride more, but nonetheless, he's looking for a bike that's comfortable, he wants to have fun on. He goes to rental days, like him and his buddies ride at LACR a lot, so this was a good guy to bring in and give you the real world, just a 40C, hey, I want to have a good time, what am I going to buy type of opinion. So, like I told all these guys, give me a couple points, positivity and negativity. We'll start with the Yamaha. On the Yamaha, look at, you own a Yamaha. Mm-hmm. You say it's a little bit of a struggle this year to set the bike up at times.
Correct.
It's not as good as you thought it was gonna be. I feel like it was supposed to be really good, and it's still a good bike, but maybe you were looking for a little bit more from it. So on the 25, front mounts have changed. We have a different linkage, suspension changed. How do we feel about the new bike?
The new bike is great. I mean, out of the box, I feel like it's just the suspension is the major positive on the bike. I just feel like the Yamaha does cater towards a more aggressive rider.
Like a racer type?
Yeah, like somebody who's just more aggressive, better technique, just caters towards more, stability. Yeah.
I just think high load situations, the chassis will shine. If you're cruising, maybe it doesn't give you as much comfort as going faster does, right?
Yeah, so on the Yamaha, I noticed like charging into stuff, like hitting holes and stuff out here on the track, it is like really comfortable. The suspension, like I said, it has a lot of hold up, it has a lot of good mixture of performance and comfort. I don't think you need to do anything. You can ride it stock right out of the showroom.
So positives are for you. What did you have written down?
Yeah, the positives would be the suspension and the engine on the Yamaha.
Engine because it's so easy to ride.
Yes, correct.
So is it too much engine for you?
Yeah, I think at times when I was riding the Yamaha today, I just felt like I was I wasn't riding it as aggressive as you know you the other riders that were here today.
Yeah.
And for me, like in the corners and stuff, it was just hard to manage in the corners. As far as overall comfort though, it was really good.
So that's the battle with the Yamaha people, and this I struggle with as well. It's like it's a lot at times, but the power is so good, and you can use it in areas to gain, especially for me when I race, that I want some of that power there, right? But then when I'm starting to get tired, I'm like, I wish I could turn this sucker down a little bit.
Right.
Because it is a lot. But the benefit on the Yamaha for me, and I don't know if you experienced today, it's like third gear. I can run third gear on a Yamaha, and I can't really do that on the Honda.
Yes, correct. Yeah, the Yamaha today was just, you roll on the gas, you could just point and shoot and it just goes. The motor is just has so much excitement.
Yeah.
It really makes you smile. It's just when you start getting tired and like I said, you're
not as friendly.
Yeah, if you're not, it's not as friendly. It's a little bit more, today I was just kind of fighting it in the corners. It kind of felt like I was, I would roll on the gas and it would kind of point and go in directions that I really wasn't trying to go for me today.
Yeah, it's for me as too, and a lot to manage. When you're rolling on the throttle, you have nothing to bank off. I feel like the rear end of that Yamaha likes to slide out a little bit more than the Honda does. And I think that's because of the power feel.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But you said suspension was another positive. That's because it's so plush.
Yeah, the suspension of the Yamaha is hands down. It's always been, Yamaha KYB is always the best out of the box. That's why today it's so hard to choose, which one, because the suspension is so good.
Suspension
on the Yamaha.
is so much better.
It's so much better. It's so much better. I mean, you can get away with riding it just the way it is with that suspension.
Right. A couple negatives that you don't like about the Yamaha.
Negative was just that it felt a little heavy in the corners.
Okay.
It was hard for me to settle into the corner, and setting up for the corner, it was just more difficult for me to get into the corner and kind of have the bike like squat into the corner and point and shoot it where I needed to go. I was kind of just struggling with where I needed to basically point and shoot the bike. The setup was,
Yeah. It's tough because it does feel a little bit high at times for me, and some of that when you want to pivot and bank off and get straight, that's what was a little bit harder for me on the Yamaha than the Honda.
Right.
So I think that's similar to what you were talking about.
Right. Yeah, I think the rear end the rear end feels high through the corner.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit more planted throughout the whole, area 1 to area 4 of the corner.
Right.
So.
Okay. So. You have another negative, or was it?
That was pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Honda. We're just going to get to this. What did you like best today?
Overall today, I had the most fun on the Honda. I can honestly say that because of the cornering character of the Honda and how planted it felt around the corners, I had a smile.
Okay.
I was really, and Glen Helen's not my...
Yeah, he doesn't like Glen Helen, everybody.
I like Glen Helen. It's just
No, he doesn't.
Over the years, this is the least amount of lap times is here, so I do kind of struggle. The dirt's loose. It's very hard packed.
Let's face it. You shy away from gnarly, shitty tracks because you don't ride that much and you want to have a good time.
Yeah, I ride more on smoother stuff.
Right.
I mean,
that's fine.
But today, like I said, in the corners on the Honda, I can point and shoot, and it would go exactly where I needed it to go.
Does it lay into the corner better?
Yeah, it lays into the corner. It's light. It feels nimble.
Does it feel lower to the ground than the Yamaha?
Yes, it just feels it feels a lot smaller of a bike.
Okay.
And that's what I liked about it. The Yamaha felt large compared to the Honda.
What about the engine? Did you like that engine preference on the Honda versus over the Yamaha?
Yeah, I thought the Honda had plenty of engine. I tried the standard map, and it had a lot of pulling power. I do think it's kind of felt in between gears at certain times. I maybe you could jody it and go one up, and maybe you can carry third a little bit more. I went back and forth between map 1 and map 2, which was the smoother map.
Correct.
And I actually preferred the standard.
Okay.
The standard. Little more excitement. I had that excitement back. It was a fun bike to ride today.
How much time have you had on a Honda before?
I rode, like 2 years ago, I rode a factory edition, a 21 with...
Works edition?
Works edition with some suspension.
Did you like that?
And I remember riding it and I thought that it was the throttle response was too hard of a hit.
So too on and off feeling?
Way too on and off. As soon as you touch the throttle, it would...
You know what we call that? Snatchy.
Yeah, it was too, like you roll on the gas and it was just too much.
Yeah, it's really grabby. So when you're in the corners, it jerks too much.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Correct.
And you didn't get that on the new bike.
No, I feel like this bike I feel like they're going in a more direction of like a torque, like KTM-ish feel.
And you don't mind the chassis. Chassis was, if you could compare the chassis, people that want to know, comfort-wise on the track, hitting bumps, bump touch, bump impact, between the two, which one was better? It's tough because you got suspension that's good and you got a chassis you got to decipher, right?
So the Yamaha has better suspension hands down. So I feel like I was charging into stuff and I wouldn't even feel it. The Honda, I was feeling it more, but it did seem more suspension related, not chassis related to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the majority of us are going to get their suspension done, most of us anyway, a lot of people. That's a negative of the Honda, is I felt the front fork was soft. I feel like I can use some more hold up, some more performance in the front fork was the main thing. The shock felt great. It was just the front fork, for me, felt like when you would slam into some of those holes, it would just kind of dive into the hole.
So overall fun factor,
yes.
Confidence,
yes.
Honda is more your jam today.
Yes, I went back and forth between the two bikes and I jumped back on the Honda at the end of the day and I definitely just felt more comfortable around the track on the Honda.
And I would assume, and look at the track's pretty hammered today and you get on the track that's a little bit ruddier, has better lines, more traction. I think that would even be better for you because you could be able to ride the bike a longer time, correct?
Yep.
So now this is the question. Does this make you want to sell your current motorcycle? And are we there yet? I'm gonna go buy a Honda. Look at durability, reliability. These two bikes are at the top of easy maintenance for the year. Like I know we talked about rod issues with the Yamaha. You haven't had any issues with yours.
No.
But as far as fasteners, all these things, these are the two top bikes.
Yeah.
Are you gonna sell a bike? Are we gonna get a Honda? This is
Yeah,
what people want to know. People want to know this.
Honestly, today I'm thinking that this Honda's really got my wheels turning. I really think I would benefit and be a much better, more comfortable on the Honda for me. And like I said, I really feel like over the years of like watching faster riders and then watching vet riders, I feel like the faster riders gear more towards stability.
Yep.
A vet rider is going to be needs help in the corners a little bit more, and that's where I struggle. And I didn't feel like the Honda wasn't, it cornered well, but it was still stable.
Yeah.
Other than the fork was soft and it was divey, and some of the harder, some of the deeper bumps. But to me, today it's the Honda won it for me today.
There it is, 2-1. So guess what? It's up to me. We're gonna have to make a tie or not. All right, you heard from the riders here today. We're gonna wrap this thing up and give you just a quick opinion of what I think. Look, it's tough, like these guys said here today. I wanted to bring in other riders that are just real world opinions. They buy their own motorcycles. Look, Eddie helps me here at Kiefer Inc., but he also buys his own motorcycle. Jesse buys his motorcycle. You hear from Little Chicken over there. He's a Cowie guy, but he really does like other brands if he couldn't get parts. So for me, look, it's a tough situation. Both bikes are good. The Honda is much improved. So if you want a bike that feels planted, lower to the ground, has good front wheel contact, but yet improved bump comfort from previous Hondas, the Honda is a great machine. But if I was just gonna go buy my bike right now, put my money down, I'm still gonna go buy a Yamaha because of a couple reasons, guys. Engine, it's a slippery slope. I don't know how else to relate it to. It's like a woman. I can't live without my wife. I love her so much, but then there's not one person in the world that pisses me off more than my wife. It's a similar situation with the Yamaha engine because I love it so much because there's so much there. There's so much there for me to use, right? And it's fast, so I know I can get around the track in a quicker manner, especially when the track is softer and going up hills. But yet when I get tired, I'm so mad at the engine because I can't ride it as fast as I can when I have a slower engine. So it's very difficult for me to decide. So I always lean towards, when I'm fresh, what do I want to ride? And that is the Yamaha engine, because it's so easy to ride in third gear. I'm still leaning that way. And then the second portion of why I pick Yamaha is because suspension. You heard all these guys talk about it today. KYB suspension, there's so much comfort. You can hop on it stock and you're gonna feel great. You're gonna feel less of the square edge, the bumps that are on the track versus the Showa stuff on the Yamaha. It's not that the Showa stuff isn't comfortable, it's just it's valved pretty soft. 175 pounds, I lean over the front a lot on my bike, so it's just a lot of diving. I have to run about 108 millimeters of sag and then drop that fork. So if you're on a newer Honda, don't be scared to lower that rear. It likes to put the weight on the rear. Don't put it on the front. Lighten that front up a little bit and the chassis gets way better. If that sag is off a little bit, it really upsets the chassis, which means I still feel like that track toughness, although bigger this year, out here on a West Coast style track, it's still not as wide as the Yamaha. And that is because of some of the suspension character and that chassis character. So for me, I'm still leaning towards the Yamaha, but man, Honda did a great job with building this new bike. You heard Jesse, he prefers it because the engine is manageable. It's easier for him to corner. So look at what type of rider you are. There's all different types of opinions. I say this all the time, don't just take what you see or hear on my channel. Go watch everyone shoot out. Go watch the opinions of all different types of riders. Find out which type of rider you are and then make your own decision based on all of our work out here. There's many of us out here doing the same type of work, but there's all different types of riders and guys that you can relate to. So that's one of the reasons why I try to bring a different type of guy into this whole versus shootout comparison that we're doing here. I know these two bikes are popular and they still are. I feel like they're still going to be at the top of the shootout list. Do I feel like Honda may beat the KTM this year? I think it may beat it. You should see the Honda in top 3 in some of these shootouts. I feel like it's going that direction and it's a more friendlier Honda. But man, Yamaha does a good job of building an easy to ride engine, has great KYB suspension, and a couple things that hurt the Honda for me. I complain about the Yamaha seat a crap ton. I hate it. I hate the Honda seat even more. I feel like there's no padding there. I feel like the shock is harsh and stiff, but it's not. It's the seat. I'm hitting the subframe rails. So I need some more padding, Honda. Stop rounding that seat so much. If you're going to round the seat, give me some more foam in that area so I can lean into those corners, especially when you have holes. Man, I just feel like I'm riding right on the subframe rails. It's not a friendly feeling, let me tell you, especially if you're trying to ride all day. It's not great. So enhance the rider comfort a little bit more. You can do that really easy with some seat foam on the Hondas. That'll improve it. But ergonomically, the Honda's the best. I still feel like there's more front end traction on the Honda. It's tough, guys. Look, I make these videos and I leave here and I'm like, man, did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? And I think about these things as I leave. But man, it's very close between both of these bikes. But honestly, I'm telling you the truth, I still would pick a Yamaha just simply because of comfort and how easy it is to ride. Look at that engine's your wife. The Yamaha engine's a wife. You love her, and then you want to strangle her every now and again because she just drives you up the wall. But you still live with it. You still want her around. That's the Yamaha for me. That wraps it up. Thank you for joining the channel today. I appreciate it. It's been a fun little video to do. Hopefully we'll do some more of these. And if you have any questions, chris@kieferinktesting.com. That is the door you can walk in and say, hey, how's it going? I got some questions. I'm happy to help you guys out. It's what we built our business on. And of course, don't forget KieferInkTesting.com. There's lots of other tests. We have a Rocky Mountain ATVMC Kiefer tested show. If you guys are driving, you're in the shop, you want to listen, we do this kind of stuff via podcast to listen to. So I'm sure we're going to do one on this test specifically. So if you want to hear more, you can go to that as well. Lots of different avenues, racerxonline.com, pulpmx.com. We're all over, all different types of stuff. So check all that out and ride safe, be good to each other. We'll see you at the track.